Good morning, students. Today we'll be discussing ethical issues in research. What do you mean by ethics? Ethical issues generally are related with philosophical questions, societal norms, and codes of behavior. Let us discuss them one by one. Ethical questions are more or less philosophical. They are not exactly right questions. They will be manipulated by one or the other as per our conditions. We generally do that. Ethics for me is something, and ethics for somebody else is something. But when it comes to research, we are talking about three parties. One is the person who is conducting research, that is researcher. The subject on whom we are conducting research, basically who is going to answer our questions, that is respondent. And the person for whom we are conducting that research. Sometimes we might be conducting research for our own purpose, for our own study, but most of the times we can see that studies are conducted for different businesses, companies, and all. So that is basically a client who is going to use that particular study. So we are talking about three parties here. One is researcher who is going to conduct the research, then respondent, and user. User will be using that particular research for the company or anything, or for personal use. So he would be having more obligations and lesser rights. Then researcher is going to get paid for whatever he is doing, and he is getting money, right? So that means researcher would also be having some obligation, but he has some rights also. When it comes to the client should be truthful to him. But when it comes to respondent, he has nothing to do with that. He should not be obligatory to anything as such, because he is not getting anything from that particular research. Even if he is getting something, then it's not that substantial as compared to the personal information he is giving you. So more ethical concerns are for respondent here, then for researcher and client as well. And researcher and client has more responsibilities, or say more obligations towards the respondent. So let us start with these ethical issues concerning three parties. Ethical questions are more or less philosophical questions, so there is no general agreement among philosophers about the answers to such questions. However, the rights and obligations of individual are generally dictated by the norms of society. And these societal norms are codes of behavior adopted by a group. They suggest what a member of a group ought to do under given circumstances and what ought not to do. Right? But here we are talking about a large group. When we talk about a society of maybe 100 houses, 1,000 houses, that is different. But when we talk about all over the world, we are going to choose respondents from anywhere, then we are liable, we are obligated towards the respondent in so many ways. So we'll discuss them one by one, that how is it more obligatory towards respondent. These three parties would be interacting with each other, right? First of all, let us start with the rights and obligations of the respondent, because he has least obligations and more rights, because he is sharing his information with researcher and indirectly with client as well, but he is not getting anything. Even if you are providing something to the respondent in return of the responses he is going to provide to you, still it, of course, it would be it is not much beneficial for the respondent than the researcher and client. So we are responsible for him as researcher and as client. So let us discuss rights and obligations of the respondent. First of all, let us discuss the only obligation he has. Obligation is to be truthful. It is just that when a subject is willingly consenting to participate in any kind of survey, then it is generally expected that he or she will provide truthful answers. Honest cooperation is the main obligation of the respondent or the subject. Yes, if he is not providing truthful answers, then the whole research might not be of any use. So this is the obligation respondent have. Then some rights he has. privacy, deception, and the right to be informed. Number one, privacy. How important privacy is. You are going to ask a few questions from respondent, and he's going to answer, right? That might be some personal information related to him. So it is researchers' right, it is researchers' duty, or say obligation, or say responsibility to protect his privacy. For example, Americans relish their privacy. A major polling organization indicated that almost 80% of Americans believe that collecting and giving out personal information without their knowledge is a serious violation of their privacy. And it is the same for everyone, right? So privacy should be maintained. If when and it is in general said that whenever you go for a questionnaire and the researcher gives the questionnaire to the respondent, in the last it is always mentioned that your privacy would be taken care of. And in some cases researchers do not maintain the privacy, and that is very much unethical. These days new technologies are making it easier to compile computerized databases that combine survey results with personal records, and there is a growing public concern about privacy issues, as better technology makes it easier for business researchers to link survey respondents' answers to social security, their taxes, and other government records. So we as researchers are indirectly harming respondents if we are not taking care of their privacy concerns. Then deception. Sometimes researcher doesn't tell the respondent that why he's conducting the research. Sometimes it's okay if you are not harming them, but not all the times. Sometimes in general, researchers who use deception argue that it is justified under two conditions. Number one, there is no physical harm or danger, or psychological harm will be caused by this particular deception that they are lying, or the researchers takes personal responsibility for informing the respondent of the concealment or deception after the research project ends. There are just two things. One is, yes, deception sometimes is acceptable if respondent is not harmed in any way. Second is, when the project is completed, then he should be informed that yes, he was deceived in such and such way, and this information was being used for this particular purpose. Then it's okay. Otherwise, this is also a very wrong thing, on the unethical thing on the part of researcher. Suppose a survey research project must contract busy executives, then then the researcher might say that might pretend that it is he or she is calling from long distance. That might improve the response rate, but sometimes it is not justifiable because you are trying to take the time, and they might not be free at that time. They are taking out the time for you, and you are misusing it in one or the other way. So you should be telling the right purpose to the respondent if it's possible. For example, if you are talking to a person regarding this, that you are trying to get a response or their views on this particular thing, that whether prison is too good for sex criminals, they should be publicly whipped or worse. So in that case, you are not actually trying to ask their public opinion or about the crime and punishment. No, you are actually trying to check his opinion about himself as well. So if you are actually trying to check the opinion, then it's okay. Otherwise it's not actually 100% true, but sometimes you have to do it so as to judge the person's behavior. So again, it is very much philosophical. Then right to be informed. Yes, respondent has right to be informed about how you use the information provided by him in your research. This is actually a very good code of ethics. Then second party here is main party, that is the right and obligation of the researcher. Though respondent is the main party here, because without him research might not be possible, but researcher is contacting both the parties, respondent as well as client. That is why he has as many obligations as many rights. Let us start with his obligations. Purpose of research is research. Yes, sometimes we do research and we are not actually using that for the purpose of research. We sometimes use that in different way. Maybe we just want personal data of people, and their contact number, their email IDs, and everything related to them, just to use that particular data to increase our sales or something. Maybe we might message and call them again and again, right? So the thing is, purpose of research should actually be research. This is very first code of ethics for researcher. It should not be misused. It is not like that you will be giving that data to, you will be selling that particular data to a company and they'll be misusing it. It should not happen. Then second is objectivity. Yes, first and foremost thing we always say about research is objectivity. Ensuring accuracy via objectivity and scientific investigation is the first and foremost objective of business research. Researchers should maintain high standards to ensure that the data they collect are accurate. Further, they must not intentionally try to prove a particular point for political purposes. They should be actually doing that objectively. Third is misrepresenting research. Research companies should not misrepresent the statistical accuracy of their data, nor should they overstate the significance of the results by altering the findings. Sometimes some companies do that. They try to show you that they have got more profits and more assets in the company. We have heard the case of Satyam, that Satyam was a very good company. They received awards of CSR, corporate social responsibility, corporate governance, so many times. But what was found that they manipulated the data. They were not they did not have so many employees, but they showed that they have a lot of employees. They showed their bank loans, they showed their asset more than what actually was, right? So this the same goes with research. Sometimes we do misrepresent the results of the research. It should not be done by the researcher as well as by the client. Then protect the right to confidentiality of both subjects and client. Yes, it is in the hand of researcher. Researcher has this major responsibility on his shoulders, that he has to maintain the right for both the parties, subject, that means respondent, as well as the client who is going to use the information. He should not disclose to the respondent that who is the client, and he should not disclose respondents personal information to clients if possible for him. And last is dissemination of faulty dissemination of faulty conclusions. Dissemination of faulty conclusions means that sometimes we know that this particular result is not actually 100% right, accurate, but still we show that. Suppose I have run regression analysis and the results are showing that the analysis is insignificant, model is insignificant, but I will show significance in the report. That is also wrong. If you know that conclusion is something else and you will be showing some other conclusion, for some part it might look good that yes, your results are good and everything is good, but that is not right thing to be done. So this should not be done. Information that a researcher supplies, sometimes obtained about a client's general basic information, that should also not to be supplied to the third party. That is also a point. Like sometimes what we do is, as researcher, I have got a client and I've done that research project for the client, but when there is a conflict between us, I might provide that information to his competitor. That is also wrong. That should not be done in any case. That is 100% unethical. Then advocacy research. What is it? Research to support a specific legal claim. Sometimes lawyers go for such a result to prove their own point of view. They hire people, they talk to them, they go and check what what is their view on that particular point, and what is their stand on one particular statement going on in the court, and then they provide that particular research agenda in the court so as to support their statement. That is advocacy research. Next is rights and obligations of the client, sponsor, or user. Ethics between buyer and seller. Yes, number one, ethics should always be there between buyer and the seller. If buyer and seller are 100% transparent about the project they are talking about with each other, then it is good. Otherwise, even if they are hiding some very small information deliberately, then it is counted as unethical part. They should be 100% clear about their objectives and how they'll be going to conduct that particular research in every possible way. There should be there should be an open relationship with research suppliers. So the client sponsor should maintain an open relationship with research supplier. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to be ethical, to be 100% ethical with the researcher. Obligation to encourage the research suppliers to seek out the truth objectively is one of the main obligations of client. Client should not force the researcher to go with some unethical ways while conducting the research. Then an open relationship with interested parties. Sometimes what we do is we generally go for advertisements even when we know that we have selected the candidate. So it should not be done. If you know that there are competitors in the market, there are some competitive parties in the market, either you don't go with the advertisement and call them all, or you give 100% chance to everyone out there. You should be, that means you should be in an open relationship with all the interested parties. Then privacy. Privacy rights of subjects create a privacy obligation on the part of client as well. He should maintain privacy of respondents as well as researcher if needed. If researcher has given respondent information to client on the basis of any kind of request, or maybe client needed the information for any purpose or any business purpose, then he should maintain that privacy and he should not do anything against them. Even if some information provide the client some information like that they are against the company or something like that, he should not behave unethical when it comes to the information. Yes, privacy on internet is also very important these days. Privacy on the internet is becoming a very controversial issue these days. We provide our information everywhere these days. For example, on Facebook, on Zoom community, on any we share things, we share our pics and our personal information on such social media platforms sometimes, right? Sometimes that is really very harmful. We do care about privacy when it is about a research, but we sometimes are very much negligible to the privacy on internet. So we as an individual also should take care of that particular privacy thing. Then commitment to research. Some potential clients, what they do is they have been known to request some research proposals from research supplier when there is a low probability that research will be conducted. When you know that you might not be able to come to the point to the last in the research, then you should not involve the researcher in that. When you know that you are not 100% committed to that particular research proposal, but you have involved a researcher, and you might in the last say that you'll be paying little less or something like that, so it would be unethical, because researcher has to plan everything. They'll be planning things from the very first minute when you have handed over the project to them. So this is a very big responsibility as client, that you should be committed to research and you should pay for whatever you have asked from the researcher. Then pseudo pilot studies. What are these? Researcher is told that the study is the first of many in a more comprehensive study. Sometimes what we do is we start doing some research and we know that we are not going to conduct this particular research just in one research. We'll be going for a series of researches after that. For example, you just started working on CSR. You'll be going for example, you have taken top 10 companies in India and you are doing research on those 10 companies only right now. And you know that if this project is successful, you get actual results which really are shown on the websites and everything, and you get good results and you get clients for that particular information, research results. Then you might go for some more series, maybe some other companies as well. Maybe you might take top 50 companies, top 100 companies. Maybe you take top 10 companies of every sector, every industry, maybe from manufacturing, from service sector, maybe from public sector, private sector. And so many divisions can be made on the basis of classifications like these. You might go for series of researches. So this is just one research. Sometimes these pilot studies are also done, like you start your research with 10 companies, then another 10, then another 10, or maybe then 100, maybe 1,000 and lakhs of companies, right? So these are one of its kind of studies, pseudo pilot studies. But when you are going for this pseudo pilot studies, you should be informing your researcher beforehand that you are going for this particular series, and you will be continuing that irrespective of anything. And if there is a thing in your mind that you might not continue with these series, then you should inform your researcher beforehand. Otherwise, it would be very much unethical. So that's all. Now let us discuss some questions. True, false. Number one reason for an organization to hire an outside research supplier is to acquire access to the organization's experience in important types of situation. Is it true? One reason for an organization to hire an outside research supplier is to acquire access to that organization's experience in important type of situations. Yes, sometimes we know that our own organization can also conduct the research, but sometimes we hire outside person for other information and experience as well. Yes, this is true. Second, if secrecy is a major concern, then it is best to use an outside research agency. Is it? When secrecy is a concern, then what would you do? You will be going for in-house research agency, not the outside one, because it is easy to maintain the secrecy by your own rather than asking someone else, right? Then third is, one advantage of conducting research in-house is cheaper cost. Yes, definitely it is, because if you are conducting the research in-house, then definitely it is going to cost you very less, because you are already paying employees for whatever projects you have hired them, right? You can get it done very cheaply then. Next is, the manager of decision support system supervises the collection and analysis of sales, inventory, and other periodic customer relationship management data. Is it true? The manager of decision support system supervises the collection and analysis of sale, inventory, and other periodic customer relationship, that is CRM data. Yes, he does. So it is true. Last is, researchers measure past, current, and future events. Is it? They just measure past and current events, and they try to give some assumptions about future events. So it is false. The multiple choice questions. Number one, what is the application of morals to business behavior related to the exchange environment? Dash is the application of morals to business behavior related to exchange environment. Number A, moral relativism. B, moral idealism. C, business idealism. D, business ethics. When we are talking about morals to business behavior, that means we are talking about either moral or ethics. So business idealism is out, moral idealism is also out. So the answer is business ethics. Second is, One right a researcher participant has is the information involved in the research will not be shared with others, which is known as consent, active research, passive research, or confidentiality. One right a research participant, that means respondent has is that information involved in the research will not be shared with others. So it is confidentiality. Now some self-assessment questions. Number 1, explain when research should be conducted externally and when it should be conducted internally. How would you explain this? When research is to be conducted externally and when it is to be conducted internally? It depends on money, cost involved, and the resources your company has, right? For example, an outside agency often can provide a fresh perspective, which your firm might not be able to do that. They can be more objective, they can have special expertise in the project you are looking for, right? But this would be very costly. But your in-house agency, your own agency might provide the results very quickly, very cheaply. So many things are there. So you are going to list down all the uh, uh, likely answers for both the agencies, and then you can compare in different situations. Second is discuss the sources of conflict between management and research. What might be the conflict? There might be a conflict related to research that implies criticism. There might be some topics which implies for criticism, or maybe money involved. Management might not be interested to spend much more money, while researcher would be giving you the exact money involved. Then time, management might want the information very quickly, but researcher knows how much time it is going to take. Then intuitive decision making, future decisions based on past experience. So there are so many other things as well. Then define business ethics and explain how it applies to research. Business ethics. What do you mean by business ethics? It is the application of morals to business behaviors related to the exchange environment. An ethical dilemma refers to a situation in which one chooses from alternative courses of actions, each practically every day. I mean, you'll be choosing among alternatives, and we know that which one is more ethical and which one is no. So you have to decide the things ethically. Discuss the right and obligations of research participant. We had a look on this with a different slide. Research participant, like he should be honest with the answers, his information should be confidential, privacy, and he should not be harmed in any way. His rights to be protected by the researcher, right? Then discuss the rights and obligations of the researchers. His first and main right or obligation is that the purpose of research should be research. He should not sell information to anyone else. Then he should be very objective while conducting the research. Then misrepresentation of research should not be there. Honesty in reporting errors. He should report all the errors. There is no research which has zero limitations. Every research has some limitations, some errors in it. So he should report that. Then confidentiality should be maintained for both the parties, the respondents as well as the clients. That's all. Thank you.